don't forget the ranch with the horses. And our next guest, I think, brought a shovel because, well, that's all I'll say about that. Here is Kurt Abell, and he's going to give us some election results. And those results have to do with Measure X. Now, for those of you who remember, Measure X was on the ballot for the city of Modesto, and it was a 1% tax increase initiative. So he's got the results, and while he's talking, I'm going to pull up the other results on standvote.com. So if you're at home looking at this, type it into your computer, because we're going high tech here at kbsv.org. So take it away, Kurt.
Okay, Measure X was the most hotly contested issue on the ballot this time. The proponents of Measure X ask us to pass a 1% sales tax. The election, what do you want to call that?
I'm busy over here.
Oh.
You've got the floor.
Okay. I guess the thrust was, for a stronger, safer Modesto, you need to increase your taxes by 1%, which doesn't sound like much, but it was actually a 13% increase on the tax rate in Modesto. The police union and the firefighters union backed this heavily. The policemen put in $100,000 and the firefighters put in $54,000. Other folks contributed too, and the total war chest was pretty close to $200,000. The no on X folks said no. We have a problem with where this money is actually going to be spent, because the way the measure was written, all it took was a change in a resolution, and the city council could spend the money any way they wanted to. It was mapped out. The council did map out how they planned to spend the money, and that looked okay. But that one factor remained, that all it took was a simple resolution change, and the money could be spent any way the city felt they needed to spend it.
There were other cities in the state of California that also had a tax increase on the ballot.
There were 10 cities that ran similar ballot measures.
And I believe 9 of them passed.
9 of them passed.
With Modesto being the exception.
Yes.
I have my own opinion about that, and if you'd like to read my blog, it will probably be up there soon at the CentralValleyHornet.blogspot.com. But tonight, I want to hear your opinion about why it didn't pass.
I think it was a trust issue, to be honest with you. The folks in Modesto finally said, you know, enough is enough. There have been some questionable spending going on the last few years. The most recent was the Archway Commons project, where the city paid way over market value for the land. And because of what they paid for the land, instead of building 150 low-income units, they were able to build 76, and that's all. That's just one of quite a few. And so the citizens finally stood up and said, no, this is not going to happen anymore. You folks need to pay attention to how and where you're spending your money. Not your money, our money. And maybe that was part of the issue too, was that city government thinks it's their money. And it's not. It's the taxpayers, it's the citizens' money.
I have some results here, and because of time, we may have to push some of the results to next week as well. But the ones that are most disturbing to me is that we have, out of Stanislaus County, 208,535 registered voters. And yet, only 47,877 ballots were cast. If you remember right, we've had a few people on the show that really push getting out there and getting registered to vote. Mm-hmm. I've heard it said by some, if you don't vote, you have no right to complain. I don't necessarily agree with that entirely. I feel like it is our duty, the people who are voting, to help those who aren't voting to care again, that there can be a difference.
Certainly.
And one of the ways that I personally do it is I have the show, I bring on guests from all over the Central Valley and sometimes from out of town to bring you information to help you be aware of what's going on. And it's not too late to care. It's not too late to cast your vote. There are voting cycles going on all the time. You can make a difference. One person, one vote can make a difference.
We were talking the other day about, we're coming up on the 50th anniversary of John F. Kennedy's assassination, and there's a lot of PBS specials showing him campaigning at a very young age for House of Representatives and Senate and eventually for president. I remember in 1960 specifically going to the Santa Fe Railroad Station in Fresno to see Kennedy in the back of a train. I remember seeing Barry Goldwater at Fig Garden Village in 1964. And that was, it was an exciting thing to be a part of. And it seems like campaigns nowadays, while there's still some public appearances, most of it is done via television or directed mail. And I know for a fact that locally, the mailers that, if you got mailers at home from candidates, it's because you vote. The folks who historically have not voted the last 2 or 3 elections don't get those mailers because those records are easily attainable by anyone. And so the word is not getting out there like it used to. And there's no excitement or interest in how government works or how it operates. It's just like, well, let's just let them do what they do. If they're good enough to get elected, they must know what they're doing. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. It'd really be nice to see people get excited about it again and get back out there and say yes or say no, or say I like this person. Get involved. I got involved with the No on Measure X campaign. I walked into the situation and was said, hey, you want to be treasurer? And I said, sure. And that was it. And the next 3 months was a lot of work. It was a lot of work, but I got involved wholeheartedly and talked to a lot of people and learned a lot about the process. And it's not anything to be afraid of. It's just something to get excited about and dive in and see what you can do. Stand up for what you believe in. Say yes, say no. Stand up.
And I agree with Kurt, and I'll take it one step further, and that is stand up for what you believe in, no matter what side you're on.
Yeah.
Because it's important that the public is aware of 3 sides of the story. There's this side, that side, and then the one down the middle. So get involved, talk to the people on the street where you live, in the neighborhood where you live, pass out flyers if you want to start a support group or some kind of political action committee. Like I said, there's elections all the time. Speaking of elections, I do have the election results, the numbers for the Measure X. I'll give you those.
Huh?
Okay, the yes was 11,815, garnering 48.9% of the votes. The no was 12,322, garnering 51.05%. It's interesting about the mail-in versus the day of the voting, because if you go to standvote.com, you can see by the numbers which ones were sent in by absentee ballot versus the people who walked into the voting booth the day of the election.
Specifically on Measure X, if it had just been an all mail-in vote, yes would have won. But it's the folks who, I'm convinced, sat and waited and got the information and did their own research. because the folks who went into the ballot booth on election day are the ones who made the difference.
And what is the difference? You counted it up earlier. What's the difference between
The
them?
total was 507 votes. No prevailed by 507 votes. The way that measure was written, it took a simple majority. 50% plus one vote is all it took. So it was pretty close. But the folks that mailed in made their mind up ahead of time. Had it just been a mail-in election, yes would have won. But people kept reading the paper, talking to people, watching shows like this, and saying, wait a minute, I need to do a little more homework here. And they went to the polls and said no.
Well, I'm going to read one more election result, and that's for Hart Ransom School District out in Wood Colony, where we live.
Yeah.
If I can find it here, I'll scroll up. Let's see. It's actually quite a ways to the top here. I wanted to have Oakdale too, since we had the guest on earlier from Oakdale. Okay, Hart Ransom Union School District Governing Board members. It was vote for 3, and there were 4 on the ballot. Jim Cover received 414 votes. Richie Foltz, 303. Sandy Riggins, 283. And yours truly with 156. So I came in for a distant 4th. But like Kurt was saying, the whole process is very interesting. Running for office, filing paperwork, filing the right paperwork by the right day,
Yeah.
making sure that that's all turned in, stamped, and properly filed is no easy task. Sometimes you have to check and double check.
And sometimes you get reminded.
Yes, and sometimes you get a call from the city.
Yeah, you do.
I didn't, because I was out in the county. But well, if you'd like more information on the voting results, check them out at standvote.com. Also, you can check out the Facebook pages of a lot of people who have now won their race and will be serving in the cities here in Stanislaus County, and I encourage you to do that. If you'd like to get a hold of us here, you can email me at AthensAbell@AOL.com or CentralValleyHornet@AOL.com. If you're listening to us on the radio, thank you very much for staying tuned, and you can check us out on blogtalkradio.com/CentralValleyHornet for other radio and mobile broadcasts as well. We have about 30 seconds left. What are you going to do with your life now that the election is over?
I'm going to take a little breather, play a little golf, and decide what the next project is. One is already kind of stuck its head up. We'll see what happens here soon.
I don't even know about this one. Stay tuned. Next week we'll have more news.